Frankie, you've seen all the trials for the Derby. Carlton House, is he the outstanding horse?
Well, so far I think he's the one that he caught everybody's eye. He won the Dante on his third start and going away, so suggested the distance be better over a mile and a half. Because he ran so few times, you expect him to improve again, and trained by a master, and he's the horse everybody likes to be on.
So Michael, Carlton House is related to Flawed Genius, who showed a bit of temperament. You handled him. Are you concerned at all about Carlton House's temperament? He showed a little bit of a reluctance to enter the stalls at York.
Yes, he hadn't shown that before, and I'm sure he'll be okay. We'll give him a school.
You were pretty confident about Workforce's stamina last year. Are you confident about Carlton House's, his half-brother Friston Forest stake?
Listen, many horses going to the Derby that have not run over a mile and a half. You can't be totally confident. You know, we're hopeful that Am won over a mile and a half. There is reason for hope that he will get the trip, but you don't know until they have the test on Derby Day.
How difficult is it to analyse what Native Khan achieved in the QIPCO 2000 Guineas, seeing as it was such an extraordinarily run race?
I think apart from finishing third, it's a very fair question. You know, he obviously ran very well, but will we be saying all year that the 2000 Guineas was a strange race because Frankel was so amazing in the middle of the race? Many horses tried to chase him and fell by the wayside. I think one thing, looking back at the race on a number of occasions, is the way my horse travelled. I thought Olivier was very sensible, didn't try and push him, didn't need to travel, but by that stage Frankel was a million miles ahead anyway.
In terms of his stamina for a stiff mile and a half, Asamoah, his dad, is a good influence for stamina. What do you make of his mum's side of the family?
We don't know. He's obviously by Asamoah, who won at King George. He's out of a Kendall mare. There is some speed in the family and there's some stamina with his relation, so it's an impossible question. Put it simply, I've always felt, and I could well be wrong, that he'll be better further than a mile. Olivier was the first question I asked him when he walked in after the Guineas, and he said, yeah, he should stay a mile and a half, no problem. But we'll only find that out on the day. We're not going to try and test him before the race to see whether he stays a mile and a half, and we'll hope for the best. But I think he will travel very well around Epsom as long as he handles the track. And I've had very few runners in the Derby, but we've been lucky enough to win the Oaks twice, and both of them travelled around there. So that's the most encouraging thing for me.
He was very edgy in the preliminaries prior to the Craven, but he was much better in the QIPCO 2000 Guineas. What had you done to help him in between time?
I never really planned to run him in the Craven. It was the fact that he worked so well and was very fresh and looked great that it was sort of very much an afterthought even to run him there. He was very boisterous. The trouble, it's great being a Newmarket trainer running at Newmarket because it's a 10-minute box journey, but it doesn't give a horse time to calm down after travelling to the races, and he is a little bit of a free sweater, and I'm sure he'll probably sweat on Derby Day. So obviously his behaviour concerned us a little bit in the paddock at the Craven, and we thought it would be important to take him back there for a lead round before the Guineas, which he did, and he was very much better. And then I think we kept him out of the way to saddle him in the back, not in the stables, and had a lead horse with him on that day. So we may do the same tactics. We may saddle him down in the racecourse stables at Epsom, just to make things as simple as possible for him.
On the plus side, have you seen an improvement in his maturing of his temperament? Is he a better horse now than he was, say, a month ago, a year ago?
Everything is better from that point of view. We're not looking to see whether he's any good anymore. It's all about just keeping him right mentally, keeping him sound, and hopefully, touch wood, healthy. But he's become more relaxed in his work. He's become more relaxed in his general exercise, and his normal demeanour is a lot better now. So, those vibes are right, but obviously you know as well as I do that going to the racecourse can change all that. But he's giving me the right vibes that he'll behave properly.
If we talk about Masked Marvel, first of all, he improved a great deal from Sandown to Goodwood. Were you expecting that?
Well, he won nicely at Sandown as a 2-year-old. Then he went to Ascot, and the ground was pretty loose that day, end of the season, and he didn't handle it. And then actually, it's been a difficult spring for us, as you can see. We've had a lot of sun and not much rain. And he went to Sandown for the Classic Trial, not a fully tuned horse. And they had watered, of course, heavily. Then it rained for the jumps meeting. They'd watered, it rained. It was a bit tacky. He just got plain tired on the ground. But he came on a lot between races, won well the other day. Obviously the form is decent without being exceptional. I think the rock-solid form is the Dante form, and that's pretty clear for everyone to see. But he's in great form, he'll stay the trip well, and he's come out of his race nicely, so there's absolutely no reason for him not to go to Epsom.
Is there further improvement in him, and how much more does he need to improve in order to trouble the Dante form?
Well, I haven't been hard on him this year, that the race brought him on. I think we were a little bit inclined sometimes to use some races to bring horses on. I mean, a lot of them had to do that in April this year. And it did that, and he won in good style. He's always shown us his nice type of horse. I see him as a horse with no problem with the distance, and he'd even go further.
Might you see him as a set and ledger type ultimately?
Yeah, he's that kind of framework of a horse, yeah.
Moving on to Nathaniel, you've since been talking about a need for rain if he's going to run at Epsom. Is that because he needs a little bit of ease in the ground, or is it because it would put extra accent on stamina?
No, because I think he's happier having trained them out of the family. Obviously, I had Playful Act, and she was better that way. She won Group 1s, Group 2s with cut. Percussionist, who was a much better horse with cut on the ground. And similarly, Echoes of Eternity. They all like it, and he's typical of that. He does roll his knee a bit. That was evident at Chester. But he learned a lot at Chester. He came out of that race in good order and a lot wiser. He is being left in the Derby purely if the weather changed. It will do one day. It's England, but we don't know when. But if it came up, it was good to soft ground, we would consider the race. But overall, the plan has always been the King Edward VII at Ascot, and that remains firmly the plan, and he's there just as a proviso.
The stall your horse starts from can affect where it finishes. Generally speaking, these days, on a British racecourse that is round or, like Epsom, horseshoe-shaped, the lower the stall number, the better the draw. Also, as a guide, the longer the race distance, the less likely the draw is to impact on the results of the race. However, neither of these rules of thumb apply to the Derby. Since the year 2000, 68 races with 10 or more runners have been staged at Epsom over the Derby trip of 1.5 miles. Of those, only one has been won by a horse drawn 1 or 2. This is a staggering statistic. In all of that time, only one horse has defied it, and that was Eswara, who won the 2005 Oaks from stall 2. But during that period, stall 1 is 0 for 68. In fact, the last time that a horse won from stall 1 over this course and distance in a field of 10 or more runners was Oath in the 1999 Derby. Why might this be? It seems counterintuitive that an inside draw on a left-hand track could possibly be a disadvantage. Well, the answer probably is, as the horses break from the stall, taking the shortest point to the top of this section, they actually bear to the right. They then return to the inside rail over there. This presents jockeys on horses drawn 1 or 2 with one of 2 choices. They could either choose to use their horse's energy up early on this sapping uphill section of the track, thereby ensuring that they have a prominent inside position once they've returned to the inside rail, but potentially that could mean they have relatively less energy for the end of the race. Or they could bide their time, and that would mean by the time they get there, they would inevitably be at or towards the back of the field, and that would mean towards the end of the race. They'd have to hope that they didn't run into traffic problems and that they simply aren't too far back. Now, clearly, this indicator is not infallible. During those 68 races, stalls 1 or 2 provided the runner-up on 14 occasions. However, the overwhelming conclusion is inescapable. Being drawn 1 or 2 in the Derby or the Oaks is a disadvantage.
Well, it's time now to concentrate our minds on the fillies and the Investec Oaks, and the obvious place to start is with the 1,000 guineas from Newmarket. Blue Bunting, how impressed were you for the Oaks by what she did in the 1,000 guineas?
Extremely. I think she took me by surprise, and I think to some degree she took Godolphin by surprise as well, because I think they were expecting for a good run, but they were thinking of her as an Oaks horse and not a 1,000 guineas horse. The fact that she was able to be effective over a mile is only to her credit. She's bred to get this trip. She could well improve for it, and she could well be a sort of Cassier type horse for them. I think she's extremely strong. I prefer her actually as a favourite for this race than Carlton has for the Derby.
Steve, you have a strong opinion about her?
Yeah, I'm completely with her as well, for all the reasons Lydia just given. I think she's got the best form, and I think everything about her pedigree suggests she'd be better at a mile and a half, and I think we can confuse ourselves looking too many other places.
Okay. Behind her at Newmarket was Haven't, a horse who many people thought would be more suited by Epsom than Newmarket.
I think that's possibly true. I think what seems to be the case is that the ground, I think, was considered too fast for her at Newmarket. And to be fair, she didn't run badly. She at the beginning of the season looked a real Oaks contender. I think she is, as long as she gets some juice in the ground, and they normally provide pretty decent ground on Oaks Day. So I would expect a big run from her. I think she is bred to stay.
What about Haven't for you, Lydia?
Well, I was a Haven't fan last season, but mainly for the Oaks. I thought she'd run well in the 1,000 guineas. I wish she'd run a bit better than that. I do think the faster ground at that time and coming down into the dip might have compromised her a little bit at Newmarket. I think the ground that they tend to present here at Epsom will hold no fears of her. I think she will improve for the trip. And whilst I can't really come up with a logical reason why she'll improve past Blue Bunting, I'm kind of sort of sticking with what my thought was of last year, which was Haven't is an Oaks horse.
Well, let's talk about some of the Aidan O'Brien runners, and let's start with Wonder of Wonders. Mm-hmm. She was extremely impressive, I thought, at Chester.
Yes, she was. She's bred for the job. She's got such a blue blood family, and the kind of family that excels here on this track as well. She took an age to pull up at Chester. OK, she probably didn't beat much, but the style of it was very impressive. As she is clearly a player. I can't criticise her.
Steve?
Yeah, I mean, Cornwall looked very strong in the Oaks, and she looks the strongest. You can knock the form if you want to, but the style of her and the manner she did it at Chester was really impressive. She's a lovely looking filly as well, and Lydia's already said she's bred for this Friday. That's what she's bred for, and she must have very sound claims.
Let's spin through some of the others. Misty for me of Aidan O'Brien's win of the Irish 1000.
Yes, and that was impressive, and she was a very good 2-year-old as well. However, I've got severe stamina doubts for her, particularly on the dam side. I can't see her being more effective or even as effective over a mile and a half.
A few of the English contenders. Izzy Top of John Gosden's.
Yes, well, if she didn't handle the dip in the fast conditions in the Pretty Polly, and if she is more capable filly based on her Newbury run, then you can give her a chance. It's a steadily run race, though. I'm not completely convinced that she'll improve for the extra trip. I take into account the fact that her trainer John Gosden seems to be quite bullish about her, but for me, not quite good enough and some significant doubts.
Steve, Mick Shannon's Zayn Al Bolden, she's putting together a good record.
Yeah, visually very impressive when winning the Lingfield Oaks trial by a wide margin. Not sure of the value of the form myself. I'm pretty sure the form isn't all that much, and the time was slower than the Colts on the same day. And I don't think that was a great race. So at the moment, I think it might be style over substance. She'll handle the track, definitely. Not sure she's quite good enough.
And Beatrice Aurora, she's also putting together a good record this season.
She is, again, positive for the track. She handled Goodwood. It gives you a suggestion that she'll be able to handle Epsom. I like this filly. She is a very likeable horse. I don't see her as being either A, good enough for the Oaks, or B, being able to last the trip. I think she'll run really well and she'll win some good races this season, but not the Oaks.
OK, well, it's time that we crystallise our thoughts and pick one out for the Oaks.
I'm being stubborn, really. I'm just sticking with my opinion of last year, and that is Haven't. I've said before, I can't really come up with a logical reason why she's going to reverse form with Blue Bunting. I just think this is what she is best suited to, and you'll see the real Haven't.
Fear Haven't enormously. I think Blue Bunting, it's very obvious, but I think she's a really worthy favourite. She's got the best form, and I think she's pretty sure to improve at the trip.
Well, I like Wonder of Wonders, so I thought it was extremely impressive at Chester. She's got the perfect pedigree, I think, to get a mile and a half here at Epsom. Everything should be in her favour. So Lydia is going with Haven't, Steve Blue Bunting, Wonder of Wonders for me. But now let's hear from some of the men responsible for the leading contenders in the Fillies Classic.